Hey there guys, how's it going? I'm Corey. This is the How to Adult Show. Episodes come out every Monday, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel and also sign up for our fabulous newsletter for extra finance resources, tips, and tricks. You can always find that linked down in the episode description below. And today we are going to be talking about my new favorite get-rich-quick scheme to make tons of money with no effort, because those are the types of videos that seem to do really well on the internet these days, unfortunately. So, if you didn't figure out that I'm joking, get-rich-quick schemes are definitely not a thing around here, but in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to build wealth, and in keeping with my lovely clickbaity title, how to build wealth with as little effort as possible. Not no effort, because everything requires work, but as little active work as possible. Before we dive in though, I want to say a quick hello and welcome to the How to Adult Show. I'm your host, Corey Fowler, and this is your source for all the important adulting life skills, like personal finance, that you wish someone had just taught you in school. So make sure you hit subscribe and let's get started. So the easiest way to build long-term wealth with as little effort as possible is to start saving and investing small amounts of money today and letting compound interest grow your money for you. Now, this is a well-tried and tested method of growing wealth over the course of your life that you'll find outlined in countless finance books, from The Wealthy Barber to The Simple Path to Wealth to Automatic Millionaire, all kinds of books like that. It's the best way to get your money working for you with very little effort and very little input from you other than commitment and consistency. It truly is the lazy person's way to build wealth, and statistics show us that by taking this route to grow your wealth over the course of your life, you'll do better than the average day trader who spends all day, every day, staring at their computer screen, looking at the stock market stats, and trading things constantly, which honestly, that sounds like a win-win to me. Over the course of your life, this method is going to start to turn your dollars into millions. Legitimately, it can do this, and I will explain how this works in this episode. First, though, there are 3 rules that you need to remember if you want this wealth building method to work well for you. Rule number 1 is starting young is best so that you can give your money way more time to compound. When it comes to when you should start investing, as the old saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. Don't keep waiting and wishing that you'd started sooner. Rule number 2 is you need to allow compound interest to work for you by using the stock market. This means staying invested safely in the stock market, using long-term buy and hold strategies, and buying things like index funds that won't leave you belly up. And rule number 3 is that saving and investing as much money as you can will mean that you can retire more comfortably and with a larger amount of money. This means consciously making the choice to live well within your means and to save and invest the rest. Now, if you don't know what any of this means, don't worry, I'm going to explain everything to you in more detail. To start with though, I want to make sure that you understand what compound interest is, because everything we're going to talk about today is based on that. So the definition of compound interest is the interest on a loan or deposit calculated based on both the initial principal and the accumulated interest from previous periods. Now, if this sounds like a load of gibberish to you, that is completely fair. This definition is not exactly helpful to anyone just getting started on improving their financial literacy. It's complicated to understand. What it means is when you put money into an account, you're going to earn interest on that money. That we understand. Then the interest that you earn is added to the initial amount of money that you started with. So you have a greater amount of money in there now. Then, this is where it gets better, the interest rate is calculated again on that new larger sum of money that you have in the account, so you earn more interest. That interest is also added to the money that you started with, and this just keeps going and going and going. It means that you're earning interest on the money that you initially deposited, and you're soon earning interest on top of interest on top of interest, so that if you never ever touch that account again, that money will grow without you ever having to do anything at all with it. Rule number 1 is to start when you're young. The best way to start building wealth over the course of your life is to start saving and investing when you are young. This is because the magic ingredient that helps compound interest work is time. The more time you have for your interest to compound, the larger and larger your principal amount will grow, and this is how people end up with millions of dollars of retirement savings, even if they never earned $1 million over the course of their working lives. I'm going to walk you through an example of how just time affects compound interest in a retirement savings account so you can understand the difference between starting young and giving yourself time versus waiting until you're older to start saving and investing. So we're going to use two friends as an example here, Susie and her friend Maggie. Let's say Susie is 30 years old. She's been contributing to her retirement account over the last few years, and she's grown that account to contain $100,000. Now, let's say Susie never contributes another dollar to that account, and she never looks at it again until she retires at age 60, which is 30 years later. Susie logs in and sees that her $100,000 has grown into just shy of $1,473,057 over the last 30 years. This example is assuming a 9% rate of return, which is just below the average rate of return from the last 30 years, just so you know how he calculated that. Now, let's look at her friend Maggie. Maggie has also been contributing to her retirement account, but it took her until she was 40 to have $100,000 saved in her retirement account. Just like Susie, she never contributes another penny after she's 40. It still earns a 9% rate of return, and she still logs back into her account when she's ready to retire at 60. All of the variables are the same, except the amount of time that the money is invested for. Susie has let her money grow for 30 years, while Maggie let her money grow for 20 years. When Maggie logs into her retirement account, she sees that it has just shy of $600,915 in it. This is less than half of what Susie earned. So $100,000 compounded over 20 years turned into $600,915, while $100,000 compounded over 30 years turned into $1,473,057. This is how compound interest is the most valuable tool that you can use when planning for your future. And this is why it's best to start not only saving, but also investing for your retirement when you're as young as you possibly can be. That money will work for you over the years, and the more time you give it, the better the return will be. On to rule number 2, which is to let compound interest work for you by investing in the stock market. I first defined compound interest for you based on the example of earning interest in a bank account. And while this is true, you can earn compound interest from bank account interest rates. The interest rates available today aren't anywhere near high enough for you to gain any sort of major growth from it. So we use the stock market instead to achieve better growth with our money. The first rule I taught you was that time is the magic ingredient for compound interest to work well for you. Now, the second ingredient that you need to add to this recipe for success is a good rate of return. This is why you need to be investing to work on growing the money that you've saved. Just putting your savings into a bank account and letting it sit there for the next 30 years will do nothing. You will earn nothing, and your money will barely grow, if at all, and it certainly won't keep up with inflation, which means that when it's time for you to withdraw your money to pay for your retirement, you're going to end up with less money than you started with, dollar for dollar, and you certainly won't have built any wealth. If you're a bit confused, I'm going to show you another example. Let's look back at Susie and her friend Maggie. Maggie and Susie both save $500 a month. Maggie is nervous about the stock market, so she finds a high-interest savings account which pays a magical interest rate of 1.25%, which is the highest interest rate currently offered by a bank account in Canada. Susie, on the other hand, reads one basic investing book and decides that she's going to invest in ETFs, which worked out to earn her a 10% rate of return. They both start saving when they're 20 years old and stop saving exactly 40 years later when they're ready to retire at age 60. This means that they've both saved $240,000 over the course of their lives. Maggie finds that she can't actually afford to retire as she has only $311,180 in her retirement account using the 1.25% rate of return. Susie, on the other hand, is delighted to see that she can retire and kick off her retirement with a fabulous vacation because she has $3,162,039 in her account using the 10% rate of return. This example directly shows you how earning a higher rate of return moves mountains when it comes to passively building wealth in your retirement portfolio. It also shows you why investing and learning just the basics of the stock market is so important. So, to recap, first, you need to commit to letting compound interest work for you over as long a period of time as possible. And second, you need to make sure that your money is invested and earning as good a rate of return as possible instead of just sitting there in a bank account. After this, we can move on to rule number 3, which is that you will passively build more wealth by saving and investing more money. This rule is relatively straightforward to understand, but it's not easy to put into practice. It means that the more money you decide to save and invest, the more wealth you'll build over time. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but this is the hardest rule for people to embrace and to use to their advantage because people want to spend money. So for this rule, to explain it, I'm going to show you 2 examples. I'm going to show you how Susie and Maggie compare when they save and invest different amounts of money over the course of their lives. And I'm going to show you just how much more money Maggie could have made if she made just a few small lifestyle adjustments that allowed her to save more money. So, first of all, looking at Susie and Maggie, they both earn a salary of $50,000 a year. Susie makes lifestyle choices that allow her to save and invest a whopping $1,000 a month. Maggie, on the other hand, makes some different choices, but still manages to save a pretty good $100 a month. Susie and Maggie both save money for 30 years, invested in the stock market, and earn a 10% rate of return from their ETFs on average. By the time Susie retires at 60, she has $2,260,487. By the time Maggie retires, she has $226,048. This shows us that while compound interest always works for you, it works better and you can earn more by saving and investing a greater amount of money. Next, if you're looking at this example and saying, that's awesome, but there's no way I can save $1,000 a month, so this is stupid, I want to show you how a few small lifestyle adjustments that reduce your spending here and there can help you earn so much more. So let's look at Netflix memberships for this example. Maggie's life gets busy, so she decides to cancel her Netflix subscription of $10 a month and add that money to her savings and investing account. Maggie is now saving $110 a month instead of $100. By saving and investing her extra $10 a month, she now retires with $248,653. That means she's earned $22,605 more by investing $10 a month more. The actual dollar for dollar value of money saved on her Netflix subscription for 30 years is only $3,600. But when added to the investment she's already making and compounded over 30 years, that $3,600 turns into $22,605. The idea here is not to shame you and your daily purchases, but to point out that if you're serious about growing and building wealth passively so that you can retire comfortably or even just decide to up and retire early, then it's well worth starting small and investing what you have, and then over time working on increasing the amount of salary that you can save. Even if you can only start by saving a few dollars each month, once you get into the habit of doing this, then you can work on increasing your savings rate and eventually end up with a healthy retirement account to live on comfortably. So to recap all of this, the secret to building wealth with the least effort is to use the power of compound interest to grow that money for you. And there are 3 rules to understand and to follow to maximize your passive wealth growth. Rule number 1, give your money as much time to compound as possible. This means starting when you're as young as possible and following the adage that the best time to plant a tree is today, meaning the best time to start investing is today, if not yesterday. Rule number 2 is to maximize your rate of return by investing your money in the stock market. There are ways to do this safely, for example, investing in ETFs. Compound interest does nothing for you if you're not earning enough interest in the first place. Keeping that money in a savings account is going to get you nowhere. You have to be investing it somewhere where it's going to grow for you. Rule number 3 is to make lifestyle choices that allow you to save and invest as much as possible. While time is the magic ingredient and rate of return is pretty darn important to the recipe, you cannot take full advantage of either of these if you're not saving and investing enough in the first place. If saving is hard for you, which it is for a lot of people, then start small. Start saving and investing just what you can and make it your goal to slowly increase the amount of money that you can save over time. If you want to learn more about this topic, I recommend picking up a copy of the book called A Simple Path to Wealth. It's a really great place to get started if you feel like a total beginner when it comes to this, and it walks you through all of this and more. So if you want to pick up a copy, I've linked it right down there in the description for you for this episode. And to wrap everything up for the day, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment on the episode. It really helps me out so much, and I am super appreciative of your support in watching this. If you want to learn more, as always, you can find loads of resources and next steps linked down below in the descriptions. I appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you again. I'm Corey. This is the How to Adult Show, and I can't wait to see you right back here next Monday when we drop a new episode.